welcome back to coverage of the Players' Championship here from Seattle, Washington, 2012, the inaugural Players' Championship. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Zach Hill, and we are going to be seeing a feature match here with Junya Ianaga versus Shota Yasuoka. And to start things off here, Junya has mulliganed to 5, but it's not all bad.
Right. He is mulligan to 5, but he drew turn 1 Skull Clamp and has a balance in his hand, which does exactly what it sounds like it can do.
Yeah.
Balance the game right back. Of course, your opponent playing Powder Keg gets a little bit around balance because balance doesn't count artifacts.
All right, the players are playing very quickly. There was...
Wow.
Very, 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 very quickly. Okay, so what happened there was Junya played a Savannah Lions. Powder Keg was instantly popped, and that was it. The whole entire game took 45 seconds, according to Sheldon.
Is that the fastest match we've ever seen?
I think it was. Was it Jace or what? What was it? And it was Jace, the Mind Sculptor.
That's what was so awkward. If it was a creature, Ianaga could have just drawn a land for the balance. But because it was specifically a planeswalker,
yes,
the balance couldn't get him right back in the game.
Right, and as a, I mean. Normally, you'd think you'd want to kind of grind it out, but man, Jace, when you're on literal no board except for a plains, is just
and it's fate sealing
the
you so you
worst.
don't draw any more lands.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I can't blame him, although I usually tend to play it out anyway. Ultra Pro is the leading manufacturer of trading card, game sleeves, and deck boxes. If you're looking for official Magic 2013 portfolios, card storage boxes, deck boxes, sleeves, and playmats, Ultra Pro has you covered. For more information, visit wizards.com/magicmerchandise. Well, that was kind of a devastating blowout of a game one, wasn't it?
I just don't know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, actual 45-second game. You know, I don't know if Ianaga was kind of expecting defeat. I mean, things went back and forth so quickly, and then Ianaga just instantly scooped once he saw Jace. It was, I don't know if he had kind of packed that one in ahead of time, maybe.
He's sideboarding out balance, it looks like. I cannot imagine doing that against a deck that wants to 2-for-1 you over.
Yeah, you wouldn't. No, I mean, and plus, I mean, they've seen each other's deck lists. They showed each other their decks. And, you know, Shota's deck needs quite a few lands where it looks like Ianaga's does not. And,
right.
You know, even just for that effect alone, right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
he said he didn't get an Armageddon. Well...
Yeah, you kind of did. I mean, you know, you're the creature deck. Traditionally, you want to use balance to kill creatures.
Yeah.
But if the way they deal with your creatures is by sweeping them all off the board, and all of a sudden they have 6 cards in their hand and you have 2, why not cast balance?
Right.
You know, it's like if you have a bunch of creatures on the table, you're winning. If you don't have a bunch of creatures on the table, you probably want balance.
Yeah.
But, you know, on the other hand, I see it, you know, you draw it in your opening hand. It's not a creature. It can slow you down. So I get where you're coming from, but it's hard for me to cut balance from a deck.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not advocating that. Like, what I'm saying is it also takes the place of the Armageddon that you never got, right?
Yeah. By you, I mean Junya Ianaga.
Sorry, yeah, gotcha. Oh, that you.
I can't even justify that. I don't even know what I was saying. Yeah, very, very, very quick game one. Yasuoka can't be upset by that.
So it looks like Finkel's, or excuse me, was it Finkel? Yeah, Finkel already has Karn down. And we're talking about Liberated here, and he plussed Karn to make his opponent exile a card, and it was the Black Braids. So there's some pretty spicy things happening here.
I'm telling you. Just games of Cube are unlike any other games of Magic.
Yeah, hopefully we get a real game here. I mean, that one was so quick.
That was on the verge of being a real game of Magic.
Yes.
But it was not quite there. Now, we see a one-land hand, but a very, very good one-land hand
like,
from
that's a
Ianaga.
fantastic one. Is it keepable? Look at that. He even has an Isamaru. Like, he can present 2 very, very cheap threats. If he draws any land, he can play a Porcelain Legionnaire or the Honor of the Pure and really be able to apply tons of pressure. He's going to keep it and just leave with Isamaru here.
Yasuoka also keeping the hand. Has a ton of lands in it, but it's got that Trinket Mage that we saw do devastating work earlier.
I also see a Terminate in his hand, so he will have an answer.
For the Figure of Destiny or the Asamaru, depending on what happens this turn. Now, it's interesting. If you draw a land, what do you cast here, Marshall?
I mean, is getting Isamaru to 3, does it get it out of range of anything? I mean, it doesn't get it out of actual bolt range. It does get it out of, like, Magma Jet,
fire.
Shock, that kind of thing. I think I'd rather just develop my board, play... If I drew a land... You know, I think I'd probably just play the Legionnaire. Like, I really would need my... Like, if I could put 5 power on and then untap and then play the Anthem and hit him for 7, like, I just feel like it forces him to have a very specific subset of cards, like, now.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so he gets the black-red dual land, he gets a Badlands, plays a Mountain, so he's got Terminate up if he needs to cast it.
Oh, that's an interesting draw.
Ienaga doing a lot of work for being stuck on one lander.
There you go.
That's a Burrington Forge Tender.
I love that card.
Something we talked about when designing this cube was that we really wanted to have cards that are sort of sideboard oriented for the same reason that it's good to be able to play lands. You know, oftentimes having, the best card in your sideboard is more important than having...
what was that? Pyrokinesis? What is that?
It's Pyrokinesis.
Oh, man.
I can't tell what was exiled to pay for it.
I can't tell either. It was a lightning bolt.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Wow. Absolutely devastating for Ienaga. But yeah, I mean, so Forge Tender getting very outclassed by the Trinket Mage.
By the Trinket Mage.
Just the straight up gray ogre. And Ienaga is drawing cards to cast. You know, he drew Savannah Lions.
Yeah, it's really funny because even though he's still on 1, every card he's drawing, he's been able to cast right away.
No, and then
okay, and he
also
draws a
has
swamp here,
forbid.
so...
He's probably going to, snuff out the Trinket Mage and cast...
The Legionnaire, I'd suppose.
The Legionnaire, I think.
Oh, he's just going to go for Honor the Peer here.
Guess he wants to just deal the damage as quickly as he can.
Well, but I mean, then he lets the Trinket Mage trade for either creature.
Well, I think he's snuffing out the Trinket Mage, right?
Okay, so he's going to run that out first so that he's going to try to draw counter spell out of Yasooka's hand.
Yeah.
I think he's got a forbid there.
All
Doesn't
right,
care
and
though.
Yep. And terminates the lion. I think he just thinks he can afford to take 2 every few turns from the Forge Tender and not really have to care too much about that. Would rather save the forbid for bigger fish to fry.
And sure enough, the 2 keeps coming in.
I think you buy back forbid here if you cast it. Just discarding those 2 extra mountains. They aren't really doing a whole lot. And you want to be able to take care of any threats that you confront.
So what's Yasooka's plan? I mean, I saw he has a Pithing Needle in his hand, the forbid, like, he's not really doing much. It doesn't feel like he's in a bad position, but he's also not actively doing a whole lot yet.
Yeah, I mean, he just needs to draw big threats. You absolutely have to forbid this here, I think.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what he does.
Should he pitch the Pithing Needle as well? That's against White Weenie style deck, like, that doesn't do a whole lot, right?
Yeah, and he wants to be able to cast a 6. I think we saw him have a Consecrated Sphinx in his deck, so he wants the 6 land to be able to cast that.
Is that a miscalculation?
That is a miscalculation.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to get something, you know,
right.
Ienaga being stuck on lands. Oh, he was stuck on lands.
Maybe not if he casts, well, I can't.
Is it a Demonic Tutor, or?
That is what it looks like.
It is Demonic Tutor. So do you let this resolve, or do you counter the next thing? He decided to forbid it. So would you have done that?
I don't know. I feel like forbid with buyback's a big part of my plan here. I don't really want to throw that away.
Yeah, and if you let him Demonic Tutor, then you can counter whatever it is that he gets, and now he can't draw it anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, he could, unless he tutors up Jaldoran Outpost, which you can't counter.
Okay, and he can grind you out with that.
Right. Now this is a huge miscalculation here. Ienaga really wishes he had an extra mana.
Are you commentating or reading the card? Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I mean, like Ienaga really needed to resolve that sword so that the Forge Tender could become a relevant threat.
Yeah.
But if you look at it now, he doesn't.
Although it is, though, you know, Shouts is on 4, I believe, now.
It's certainly doing work for
Yeah.
sure. But
So,
I mean,
so now look, he can represent lethal. He's got a Fiend Hunter in hand. Now it's not going to actually hit anything. Do you run it out to shorten the clock by a turn, or do you wait so that you can get something that can block? You know, if you play some big blue spell or whatever. I mean, this is a tough spot, right?
Yeah,
This is there's merit to both sides of it. Putting 4 power up on the board here and just saying, look, draw something that either kills one of these or can block it, or I'm just going to kill you, makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I feel like running it out there is probably correct. There's not that much that kills a 2/4 in a blue-red deck.
All right, he decided to wait,
Sure.
and he promptly rips
Solemn
a
Simulacrum.
pretty ideal draw here.
Because like what happens here, right? If the Fiend Hunter doesn't resolve, you know, you're in kind of bad shape.
Yeah.
Now
the
he's
Fiend
able to
Hunter-
resolve it because you know, again, Yasuoka does not have Forbid in his hand. And he gets his last card,
And he
it's not going to do
scoops it up. Wow.
All right.
So Ienaga is able to just ride the wave that was started originally by that Forge Tender, and it does 16 damage or something over the course of that game.
But that just goes to show you can't give up, you know? I mean, he could sit and be very frustrated about how mana screwed he was getting. Or he could say, all right, well, I'm going to cast the cards and see what happens.
Exactly. And, you know, it's also, I think it highlights one of the downsides to a deck like Shota's is that, you know, he has a lot of answers for different things, but sometimes they're not the one that you need. That Pithy Needle, he just pitched it to a Forbid because it wasn't really doing anything.
And he did Trinket Mage it up, so it was a raw card for Forbid. But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, if you're, you know, oh, I have my answers to my Planeswalkers. Well, if that's not answering a 1-mana 2/2, you're in bad shape.
Yeah. So interesting to see, and he just drew a bunch of lands as well.
For sure.
Qualifiers for the next Pro Tour have begun. You could be on the big stage for Pro Tour Gatecrash, taking place February 15th through 17th, 2013 in Montreal, Quebec. For more information, visit wizards.com/PTQ. I'm going to be playing in a few of those, I think.
But what happens if you qualify? Then you can't do commentary.
Then I probably won't day 2, and I'll do commentary on day 2. All right. On one of the side matches, Sheldon is telling us that Finkel has just gone up 1 game against Yuya Watanabe. So we'll keep an eye on that one for you as we progress into the 3rd game. And remember, we are on game 3 already as well.
Right.
Game
The first game took a literal 45 seconds.
Yes.
That
Just
second game
instantly over.
was just weird. Yeah, you don't see a lot of games that look like that, of just like nickel and diming your way to victory.
Yeah.
But, that's exactly what happened. I mean, sometimes, you know, it's the classic quote about wrong threats and wrong answers.
It is.
You know?
Is that a Phyrexian Rager?
That is one of Ienaga's very few black cards.
I do enjoy that card, though.
Not awesome in concert with Honor of the Pure.
No, I see. Oh, wow. So we are confirmed, by the way, that he did side out the balance, which I think is interesting. But his hand looks sweet, except for, does he not have a white source?
Ienaga keeping some magnificently awkward hands.
Is that a
Sarcomancy?
A Sarcomancy, yep. So that's a 2/2 for 1. I like that. He's got he's got a Sun Titan in hand, which looks a little out of place. Hey, there's the Kaldroran Outpost that you mentioned.
Yeah.
He also does have a Stoneforge Mystic,
Yeah.
which he can't cast.
Yeah, the thing about Kaldroran Outpost, you have to sacrifice a Plains. And if you can't do that, you can't play it.
Wow. Okay. So now a Plains has become like super critical. Well, he does draw a second land.
It is, however, one of his 5 swamps. Now, Ienaga not main decking the Sarcomancy. He's bringing this in to put more pressure on Yasuoka. And I mean, Ienaga really just cannot draw a good hand to save his life.
He cannot. Because, I mean, his hand is obviously awesome.
Yeah, well, sure.
He just needs a Plains.
I don't know about keeping that hand, though.
Yeah, it has a lot of power, but it really does rely very heavily on finding a Plains really quickly.
I mean, I appreciate he values Stoneforge Mystic highly. That can get him Skull Clamp, but I mean, he only has 11 white sources. Now, that sounds like a lot, but it still means that more often than not, you're not drawing a white source.
That's right.
So,
all right, so he has found a 3rd swamp, and he's going to play the Phyrexian Rager to get him, and he does draw Plains off of it.
Guys, we will confirm this is the same deck that you watched
Yeah.
for the first 2 games.
All right. Here's a plane. Okay, so he's going to attack first, but he's got a planes, and he's got to decide what he wants to do. He'll probably lead with the Porcelain Legionnaire to try to draw out counter magic, I'm assuming, and then he'll play the planes, and then maybe the Stoneforge Mystic. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like my play would be different. I would
What
just
would you
cast.
do?
I would cast Sorin.
Oh, just run out Sorin. I mean, even if you assume that it's going to get countered, you just accept
Yeah,
that.
just whatever.
Okay.
Like, you know, maybe he doesn't have a counter. The thing is, if he hasn't been doing a lot, he might just come over the top with of me with a big threat like a Consecrated Sphinx or something if I don't do anything.
Which I see.
Oh, he actually is holding.
He
it.
has land Consecrated Sphinx in hand.
And like, and the thing is, like, you can play around counter magic
Ooh,
with
he's got a
Sorin.
smokestack in his hand.
Yeah, that's not a bad one right now either.
Which one would you rather? Like, let's say that you could see his hand and he doesn't have a counterspell. Do you run Sorin or Smokestack out there?
I think I run Sorin out there.
Okay. Because one of the things about Smokestack, or excuse me, about Sorin is that he doesn't have that huge immediate impact in that he makes a 1/1, which is fine. All right, so he does go for the Smokestack, and it looks like it's resolved.
Well, yeah, I mean, Yasuoka is going to cast Sphinx right now and just say, okay, that's a nice smokestack. Maybe he's going to cast Kega, which can take advantage of the smokestack. Oh, wow.
Although-
If he casts Kega,
Yeah.
he can sack it to smokestack, taking one of Ianaga's threats, and then cast Consecrated Sphinx.
Yeah, I mean, he's taking a Phyrexian Rager.
Yeah, but all that matters is that it's a permanent,
I see.
right? Because smokestack's on the board.
Because he can stay ahead and actually, Ianaga has to get run into the ground by his own Smokestacks.
But yeah, the thing is, like, if you don't cast a 4, you're playing around counter magic. But if you just cast Porcelain Legionnaire, you're not playing around just a burn spell.
Right.
And I imagine he has more copies of a generic burn spell than he does a piece of counter magic. Now, a Stoneforge Mystic here from Ianaga would be quite devastating. You know, in concert with Smokestack, that means every creature he chooses to sacrifice actually turns into 2 cards.
Right. And it looks like that's exactly what's happening. Now, we do know that he also has sort of light and shadow, but it feels like Skullclamp is like the easy choice here, and he agrees. Quick update from one of the side tables. Brian Kibler wins a game versus Owen Turtenwald using Rude Awakening. I mean, the type of stuff you see out of this game is just sick.
I know Brian David Marshall, who unfortunately can't be with us today because he was sick. He was planning on being here commentating. He absolutely loves a Rude Awakening.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
know
yeah.
that.
I can't even remember why I know that. I think it was in a draft one time. He just picked it over like every other card in Magic.
Yeah. Hey, the guy knows what he likes.
All right, so he tutored up the Skull Clamp, trying to decide, I guess, how to follow that up right now. He can either cast a Porcelain Legionnaire or get the Skull Clamp onto the board, and he decides to do that while Yasuoka is tapped out.
Now, that Sarcomancy also gets sacrificed to Smokestack, right?
I don't believe does Smokestack let you sacrifice enchantments?
Let me look it up just to be sure. I thought it was permanent, but maybe I'm just wrong.
That is a nice permanent to get rid of.
Yeah.
That is for sure. Okay, and it does, in fact, let you get rid of Sarcomancy. I'm thinking of Braid's Cabal minion.
Right.
That does not let you do that.
Yeah, so that's kind of nice. Like, anything that creates 2 permanents just all of a sudden becomes a lot better.
Right, so now Ianaga's plan is just all about Smokestack.
So how did the Rager die then? Or?
He attacked it into Kega.
Oh,
Kega blocked.
after equipping,
Gave him
okay.
2 cards.
All right, so Kega's going to attack.
Not sacking Kega there seems greedy to me.
That's also a magic card.
Jason Mind Sculptor.
So
Okay.
Jason Mind Sculptor comes down. For big Jace fans, you get a chance to see him in action this weekend during the cube portion. And he's going to brainstorm with it immediately.
He's wanting to find that 6th land for his Consecrated Sphinx.
But he's
putting
going to
those
start
on the
falling
bottom.
behind that smokestack pretty quickly here, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the way this game played out, the Smokestack play was very good.
Uh-huh.
I'm very confused.
About the not sacking Kega thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, about not sacking Kega, like, you got to do the Stoneforge thing on Rager. I don't know that I like blocking a Rager. I mean, he's going to sack it to Smokestack anyway, but...
Yes, okay, is it
yeah, I
13
guess
and
blocking a Rager
Ianaga's
is probably
at
right.
8. So maybe he just has to hit twice with Kega.
Right.
And just call it a game.
No, that's for sure. I mean, he's weirdly the aggressive deck right now.
Yeah, that's very strange.
It's just
also very strange is that a swamp? Don't you have to play red or white to
I think
pump it?
I think he's paying black to equip Skull Clamp.
Oh, to equip. Okay, he pointed at it, and I thought maybe he was trying to pump it. You need to play red-white hybrid, right, to level him up.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so
the Terminate comes in response to the Skull Clamp.
So is Iyanaga just furiously digging for a removal spell for Keiga here?
Yeah, one has to think. I mean, he's got Burns and Forge Tender, which he can play to dodge the Lightning Bolt, and then. Oh, okay, but he's not. He's just going to dig for a removal spell for Keiga. All right, so I mean, this game went differently from how I was expecting, but I mean, Yasuoka is an excellent player. I mean, he probably realized that just getting in there for 5 over and over again, when there was no profitable way for Iyanaga to answer it, was going to be good enough to get the job done.
Is that a Spectral Lynx?
That is what that is. A cat.
It's
my favorite creature type.
Yeah, so that thing's what? Just is he just going to end up sacking that to the smokestack or?
I mean, I don't think the game's going to go that long because I think Yasuoka is going to attack with Keiga for 5 and just send a lightning bolt.
Him?
Yeah.
All right.
I guess what I wasn't taking into account was that Sarcomancy was dealing Iyanaga damage every turn.
Right. It's just sitting there. Well, but why didn't he sack it?
I think he wanted to sack the creature with Skull Clamp attached to
get
draw more cards.
Thing. And the lightning bolt from Yasuoka does finish off Junior Iyanaga there.
Iyanaga really just had very bad starts in all of his games, but yeah, he didn't mulligan in the latter two, and I feel like
that was a pretty sketchy keep. That said, all he needed was 1 plains to really make that hand work. So it's kind of one of those things where, you know, he's got a pretty good feel for what he needs to do. But like you said, 11 plains. That's it doesn't take a whole lot for that hand to go horribly wrong.
Right, exactly. You know, I mean, he got kind of unlucky to keep drawing swamps when he only has 5 of them. But I mean, he had a lot of expensive spells in his hand too. And the thing about Smokestack, like, it's one of the best cards when you're playing like a competitive game of Magic or when you're ahead. When you're behind, the card is terrible.
Is that
The card is very bad.
It just wrecks you. Red Monkey makes unique hand-built leather accessories embodying the spirit of rock and roll. Red Monkey leather goods are designed to break in and only get better with age. For Magic, they make a range of bags, belts, and cuffs featuring the mana symbols and planeswalkers. For more information, visit wizards.com/magic merchandise. All right, who are these guys? Looks like Owen Turtenwald and Brian Kibler. I believe we're going to be bringing you that match now.
Yeah, we've seen Owen's Naya mid-range deck happen before. Kibler up 1-0, playing, it looks like green-blue, I believe.
Go.
Kibler is green-blue. I did get a chance to see his deck. He was also pretty happy with it.
Cool.
I think happiest of all was actually Owen. He said I really like my deck. Everybody else said that they were reasonably happy with it. Very tempered responses from Magic players, generally speaking.
Right.
Plains.
I'm a huge fan of Owen's deck, and again, coming out very fast with the 3/3 Knight of the Reliquary and Jade Mage. Kibler needs to put up some defense, or those going to end the game very fast.
So we get another report from the Finkel versus Watanabe match. Apparently, Yuya, fun-loving guy that he is, has Necropotence in play and Hymn to Turok in hand. So enabling maximum fun factor there.
Sure.
And this is fantastic. So Kibler says, wait, you don't get a Knight of the Reliquary. I get a Knight of the Reliquary too. Kibler does love himself a Knight of the Reliquary, and he's got his own now.
Yeah, he's played with that card in a few major tournaments a few times.
He has indeed, and he loves the card. And yeah, he wasn't going to let Owen have the only one on the table.
Oh, wow.
Wow, so Mirror Entity comes down for Owen. Also, Gaia's Cradle, which is going to tap for 3 mana currently. Attack with both.
Yep.
Owen's got Primal Command in his hand too, which can be absolutely devastating next turn, given that Kibler hasn't really managed to get off the ground. Also, as Knight of the Reliquary, even when it activates, is only going to be able to be a 3/3 because Kibler doesn't have any sack lands in his hand. Now, Kibler does appear to have a small white splash. For right now, we see Drogskol Reaver. I imagine there are a few other cards.
Yep, and that's Yavimaya Elder there.
Go ahead.
for
Creature.
Kibler.
Exactly the card you want to be playing when you need to be playing defense.
And on end step, Owen makes a token using his Jade Mage.
Right, and well, I mean, this attack is, if Kibler didn't have blockers, the game would just be over.
Yeah.
And even as it is, there aren't really that many good blocks for Kibler right now.
Is that an Ulvamall tracker?
That's exactly what it is.
Turn
block.
wall tracker comes down.
Jade Mage.
And Kibler is forced to block thanks to the
It
mirror
is.
entity, because he can pump up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, yeah, right. So he's
So
going to be
all of his
taking.
creatures are 8/8s?
Goodness.
I mean, now how does that interact with Knight of the Reliquary? Does it still get its bonus from the lands being in there?
Sure.
What a moment's
Go.
piece.
Did he just fog? Was it a moment's piece?
Yeah. He sacked a land, getting another one with Knight of the Reliquary, getting a plains, and casting Moment's Piece, utterly
Wow.
negating Owen's attack.
And that's gonna happen next turn presumably as well. And we're gonna see if Kibler can. Oh, he just drew an Umezawa's Jitte.
What a turn.
Wow.
I did not see that coming at all. I didn't see the piece in Kibler's hand as
Yeah.
he was flicking the cards so fast. And now Jitte is going to absolutely tear up Owen's side of the board.
Except for that, Kibler does still have to leave mana up to flashback Moment's Piece, right?
Does he? I mean, he can kill Mirror Entity
Sure.
and another creature. I guess he does. I mean, Kibler's at 11. I would kill the Ulvenwald tracker and Mirror Entity as fast as I possibly
I see.
could.
So just battle and just kill both of those things, and then he's not facing down lethal anymore.
Yeah, precisely.
That seems really good.
This is just an absolutely devastating attack.
Wow, Moment's Piece.
I wouldn't be playing around it.
I would not either. I'm sure it was. I kind of want to see Owen's face when that one hit, because that was a surprise to us in the booth for sure.
That's the thing about Cube. There's just so many different types of interactions, so many different effects that you can't possibly account for them all.
No. Especially fog effects.
Owen's probably Owen's got to be beating himself up for not casting the Primal Commander, at least leaving some amount of mana open to have on defense. But I mean, you can't really take into account the piece.
Now, I just got confirmation from Judge Emeritus Sheldon Menery that the Knight of the Reliquary does, in fact, still get its bonus on top of anything extra.
Oh, sure.
Setting it from the,
Okay.
the now dead mirror.
So sort of like having +1/+1 counters. That ability just applies after you set the power and toughness.
Yep.
Rules. Who knows those things?
Rules are what I ask judges for.
It's a good thing we have a Judge Emeritus on
Yes.
staff.
It is.
So, I mean, the tide of this game really turned. I thought Owen was going to win, not close, but a huge Moment's
I mean, he
Piece.
attacked for lethal that turn, and all of a sudden things have gone back the other way. Now, he's not in a bad spot. He can still just make tons of tokens with Jade Mage and potentially overwhelm Kibler at some point. But that Jitte is going to do real work here.
Now, Owen can Primal Command the Jitte away.
And he can put it on top of the library and then have him shuffle it.
Yes, precisely. And he's got exactly enough mana to do that and make an additional token if he wants to.
Is
So
that
he
the play
certainly
you'd
has
make?
options. I'm not sure. The Knight of the Reliquary on defense, the Phyrexian Metamorph copy of Knight of the Reliquary is also live, so I don't know that I have a good attack. Yeah, that's probably what I do. I mean, you don't want to have to sit and worry about that Umezawa's Jet for the rest of the game.
Right. And if it's one thing I've learned about playing against that card, because I wasn't playing when it was out originally, it's just like never let it get a counter on it if you can help it. Never.
Always terrible.
Yeah.
Never works out is always the worst actual thing.
It is, and it just seems like there's times where I'm playing like a control deck, and I'm like, it's fine, like I don't even have anything to kill, and I just regret it every time.
For anybody at home that hasn't played against Umezawa's Jitte, it's been a while since it's been a force. I mean, it's basically impossible to win creature-based mirrors with that card on the table.
Speaking of creatures,
Definitely.
is that a
that is a deranged hermit.
yeah, deranged hermit, one of Aaron Forsyth's kind of signature cards, I'd say, just like
shuffle your graveyard.
Yeah,
He's
oh
known
yeah.
for liking
That's
that
what
card.
that's how he first became famous, and he does in fact use the extra mana that
So
creates
two
for
damage,
Gaia's Cradle
That's true.
to Primal Command
No, it dies
away
after the
the
shuffle.
Jit
Yes.
and shuffle
Right. Okay.
Kibler's graveyard into his library, which makes the Knight of the Reliquary a 2/2 again and kills it with the 2 damage that was on it from Jade Mage.
wow.
Very huge. I mean, Kibler's play
Wow.
completely devastating. Owen right back. with an absolutely massive play, taking
What a
Kibler's 2
huge
big strikes
turn
off the
for
table.
Owen. That was disgusting.
You should have blocked your stop
The
early.
2 damage on there also finishes
Figured there's
it
no
off.
chance of that happening.
Now, you've got to be happy. The second that Kibler blocks your 2-1, you've got to be
We
pretty
only tried
excited
almost
about it
one,
as
but,
Owen.
yeah.
This has been a super swingy game, you know, because we've got
7 now.
a
Something like that.
huge blowout from Kibler with the moments piece, and now it looks like Owen's just returned the favor.
Just haymaker after haymaker.
Yeah.
Owen, you know, can echo his deranged tournament. He's going to attack. He's going to make Kibler use the moments piece, but Kibler not exactly drawing into too
They
many
echo on the
new
range
answers.
tournament.
So Kibler is sitting on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's 1 mana away from casting the
Drogskull Reaver?
Drogskull Reaver in
Yeah.
his hand, and he can actually go get that mana, right, using the Yavimaya Elder.
That's exactly right. Yeah, he
Right.
can sack it whenever he wants to. So, assuming Drogskull Reaver would do anything, he can definitely cast it next turn.
It would, right?
It gets him to
Yeah, it's like
11,
those.
Oh.
but
Is that not enough?
I
Yep.
can't tell. I mean, I
Sacrifice
don't
it.
think it is.
Yep.
Okay, sacrifice this.
4, 7, 8, and 10. Yeah, I don't think it's quite enough.
That's what I was just saying.
Like, especially because you know he's got
You're
his
like, "Oh, I
moments
wonder what's
piece
gonna
right
happen
now.
next turn." It's like,
Kibler
yeah, don't
only
throw
at
moments
7
piece.
life, and those squirrels are 2/2s.
Pretty
because
safe.
Yeah.
of the
Moments
range
piece in
tournament.
the yard and
Yeah.
everything. And Jit, you're like, yeah. It's like,
So-
yeah,
oh,
pretty
okay.
good. You're
Oh,
kicking ass.
moments piece got shuffled back in.
Oh,
Thanks,
that's right.
Sheldon reminding us.
Yeah, Sheldon reminding us that the moments piece no longer there because of the primal
There you go,
command.
moments piece.
That fact should be obvious, given that we just talked
What's
about
that?
it.
Right.
But it turns out Magic's a very hard game. It's not an easy game.
And he did get to draw a card there, though, so he was ripping, hopefully,
Right.
to hit it, and he didn't.
Right. And
All right, and
yeah,
we have an
Owen
update
gets
from
that.
the side table. John Finkel defeating Yuya Watanabe. So he advances to 2-1 in the cube portion. Not unreasonable.
No, yeah, I mean, 2-1 is a pretty commanding lead in a format that's very hard, very counterintuitive, and just having a positive record in a tournament like this against the best players in Magic, I mean, you've got to be feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. We get a decider here. I really like the dynamics between Kibler and Turtenwald. You know, I like the fact that they both, you know, they kind of outplayed each other a little at 2
Yeah.
different portions during that thing. And, you know, just a surprise card from Kibler, I think. You know, from body language and such, it looked like Owen was pretty happy with that situation. He was attacking for lethal. It looked pretty good. And then right back at him, though, he just got a huge blowout with that primal command, taking out the knight,
I
taking
mean,
out
just
the moments
haymaker
piece. I mean, that
after
was insane.
haymaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
mean-
got rid of the Jitte. I mean, that primal command, have you ever seen a primal command do that? It got rid of a flashback card. It effectively killed a Knight of the Reliquary, and it got rid of an Umezawa's Jitte.
And it was cast off 1 land.
Yeah. It was the old one-lander there. Join in the fun of Magic Celebration on September 8th at a local game store near you. Play in a Mini Master Magic event at no charge, compliments of Wizards of the Coast. Each participant gets 1 Magic 2013 booster pack while supplies last. For more information, visit wizards.com/Magic Celebration.
All right, going down to the decider now between Player of the Year Owen Turtenwald and 2-time Pro Tour champion Brian Kibler. Both
Not a
with-
bad matchup.
No, not a bad matchup at all, and both with decks that are capable of, you know, producing excellent, just game-winning sequence of plays. I mean, utterly game-changing sequences of plays.
And you know, one of the things I like about this matchup that we're viewing here too is that some of the decks we've seen have been hitting on much different axes
Right.
than each other. These ones actually hit pretty similarly. They're both essentially creature-based decks. Now, Kibler's has a ramp element to it. You know what? So does Owen Turtenwald. It's like he's got
will
some ramp
play.
elements too. Both decks can be explosive, and they're both, you know, primarily kind of
Come on,
green-based
Landworld.
decks. I like that a lot.
This takes me back to some of my
Good luck.
first major
Yeah, you too.
tournaments in just the late 90s where I was casting deranged tournaments and Gaia's Cradles. It's a lot of mana, and that adds up very fast.
I'll keep.
Keep.
You see
Both
both players
instantly
keep their
keep.
hand.
Go.
Coming out with Avacyn's program, exactly what you want in a Naya deck. Kibler very excited right now. Has that Jit that was just so game-changing last game in his hand already. You got to decide whether you want to run it out onto the table and let your opponent know you have it. He chooses to do that.
Just wants to make most efficient use of his mana possible.
Completely. On the other hand, that does put you at risk for something like a Viridian Shaman or an Indrik Stomp Howler or anything. You know, there's a big cost to letting your opponent know exactly what your plan is.
Is that a morph?
That is exactly a morph.
Okay.
I believe it's a Histrodon, yeah. We got confirmation on that being Histrodon from Sheldon. Now we see Owen with Phantom Centaur, protection from black, 5/3, but you know, you've got to respect Umezawa's Jit in this situation. Now, Phantom Centaur are very good against Umezawa's Jite because it actually prevents damage for its replacement ability. It changes damage, and it prevents it and removes a counter. So really kind of stops Jite in its tracks.
Oh, that's interesting. All right.
Kibler, a lot of options here. He's got Phyrexian Metamorph in his hand. He's got a Rampant Growth.
Copy him.
He decides to Metamorph the Phantom Centaur.
Okay.
Owen drew the actual card Naturalize, I believe.
Yes, that
and,
is. In fact, he's also got Master of the Wild Hunt in his hand.
Do you go after Jite or do you blow up Phantom Centaur with a card like Naturalize right now?
Yeah, because that does actually get rid of it, right? It's not, you know, there's no damage happening and it just completely kills it.
Right. You just don't really have to worry about it.
For me, like we talked about this last game, like Jite is a huge issue, and because Kibler finds any way to get rid of the Centaur on Owen's side, then that Jite is just like going to take over the entire game. So I'd be pretty tempted to. Unless I saw like a path to victory that involved getting rid of it, I would just get rid of the Jite at some point. Right now, it's not doing anything.
Right. I mean, for sure, like you want to get Master of the Wild Hunt on the table and start decimating your opponent's creatures. Wild Hunt, obviously one of the most powerful possible cards in a green mirror.
You know, I always
Rude Awakening.
remember thinking that it felt kind of like a Planeswalker in a way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it makes a guy every turn and kind of can start abyssing you. Now Kibler with a huge, literally and figuratively, Wolfer's Silverheart right now, cracking in for 11 points of damage, forcing some unpleasant blocks from Owen. It's going to remove a counter from his Centaur, both the Centaurs, and Owen's going to take 6. So Kibler applying a lot of pressure before that Master of the Wild Hunt can eat his face-down creature.
Exactly.
Now, he can choose to trade Wolves for 1/1 counters on the Phantom Centaur if he needs to.
And just grind it down.
Yeah, exactly. But he can also do that by blocking. I mean, Kibler needs to find an answer to Wild Hunt really quick, or those Wolves are just going to pile up. Owen right now, I think, has got to be looking to cast Deranged Hermit, really just stabilizing the board.
That's 6.
Okay. That's I didn't even realize what that card was. That's a kicked Mold Shambler. That's going to be how he decides to deal with the Jet.
Right. So now, that does actually free up the Naturalize to take out the Metamorph if he so wishes.
Right. That said, a flipped Histrodon that's still bound with Wolfer's Silverheart represents a lot of damage and card flow for Kibler. So that's gonna prove to be a problem. Owen's at 13, doesn't really have a good answer to a trampling 7/8.
Most creature-based decks don't do that well against that.
You're right.
Now, is all the damage prevented? Like, if he blocks with the Phantom Centaur, does is there any trample that would go through?
Yeah, he only has to assign,
and that damage is prevented.
Damage to the Centaur.
But the rest would go through. All right.
Kibler trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do now. I feel like you just want to attack with everybody here if you're Kibler.
Just bash?
Yeah, I mean, the Wild Hunt's going to do something regardless. I mean, you don't want to lose your... Like, I guess you don't want to lose your Silverheart and then vicariously lose your Histrodon when they're unpaired. But on the other hand, Owen's at 13, and...
what is the cost to unmorph the Histrodon?
I think it's 1 GG.
Okay.
It's not really a whole lot. The card's 4 G to hard cast.
Because I do see that in Kibler's hand, he's got, I believe, a Rampant Growth and a Frost Titan as well.
But does not have the second island.
Yeah, he doesn't have the second island, so resolving that Rampant Growth to set up the Frost Titan for next turn might be something that he's prioritized.
Block like that.
Okay.
All right.
So he says block like that.
Yep.
do this.
So
It's going to be a
I'm gonna
huge
sign.
7 points of
This is-
damage.
Yeah, first.
So he's going to assign block,
So
assign damage to the blocker.
you take
So kill
7
these
on
two
draw
guys
card.
and lose a
Yep,
counter
I'm at
there.
6.
6. I'll drop.
It's not too bad of a deal.
Dead.
And Wolfers over.
Yeah, that was the important part of
Yes.
that block.
Yes.
Yeah, so Kibler not actually being up too many cards because the Mold Shambler took out the Jitta. The Wolf was a token, but you kind of have to view the card advantage those cards have generated as a sunk cost and still not be too sad to get off the board.
So does Kibler have an island in hand? Because he just got a second swamp.
He got a second Swamp.
I don't know what his other card is.
Okay. Oh, okay. So
he
he's got an
drew
island
from
now
his turn. Okay,
for
so
Frost Titan.
that makes more sense.
So Kibler's very much all in on a single plan right now, but that is a very good plan.
Yeah.
Attack for 6.
He's going to be able to get
Ready
another
for
card off Histrodon and have a 6/6 Frost Titan.
Go.
Oh, but wow. Deranged Hermit very good
Yep.
right now. Kibler down to 13 life. Hermit again represents 9 power worth of damage. There is no way to lock that down with a Frost Titan.
No. And I mean, what's the best Kibler can do here with the Frost Titan? Lock down the Master of the Wild Hunt so he can't throw wolves around?
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, the Wolves aren't even going to do all of that much. I mean, like, do you lock down a Squirrel or a Wolf and attack with Histrodon and try and draw an answer?
Because he's got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. He's got 11 power up right now.
We'll tap.
Right. And, I mean, it looks like he's going to try and get a...
Master, I guess.
He's just locking down the...
Huh?
I think so. Yeah, and he just
Never mind, I
commented
guess.
upon that.
Okay.
All right, so he is locking down the Master of the Wild Hunt.
Yeah, we'll
But
tap
he's
the
just in
Master.
a very
Just
bad
This is
position
just a
right now.
bad spot.
Deranged Hermit, an incredibly powerful card. I mean, we've got to remember that was one of the best cards in Standard when you could play like Tinker in Standard.
Okay.
You know, it's easy to look at it and not have it be too impressive. But again, I mean, that's a lot of power worth of creatures, and it's pretty
Yeah,
hard
go
to,
on the Hermit.
once those creatures are on the table, you know, it's not like you can just terror it.
And that's a lot of permanence for one card.
Yeah.
You don't rarely
Huh?
get that.
Oh, and remembering to echo the Deranged Hermit, that was a very easy way to lose games back when I started playing, is just
right.
forgetting to pay that minor cost.
Yeah. But not a pro like Owen. He's all over it.
Yeah, right. He's a big kid. He knows how these things work. Do you just attack with everybody right here?
I mean, if you're asking me, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what do you lose?
I like doing
You lose
that.
2-2. You lose your 3-1 and a 2-2, and you deal 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage.
Yeah,
Kibler's
Kibler's at 13. You don't want to die in the crackback, however. Also, is Moment's Peace a possibility here? We know he doesn't have it, but is that something that's in Owen's head?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he does have to be thinking about it. Kibler is representing 2 mana, and you're right. You don't want to die in the attack back for sure. I mean, one of your wolves would be back, but it could get tapped with Titan. So yeah, I guess the all-out attack would be very bad here.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I mean, you can leave 3 guys back and get in for a whole lot of damage and just threaten lethal next turn. I mean, just because your Wild Hunt is tapped, and if he doesn't want to tap a blocker, your Wild Hunt will untap. So
Yep.
you can threaten lethal pretty soon.
Go.
Oh, okay.
Mirror
well, or
Entity.
you just cast Mirror Entity and tell your opponent to show you an answer.
Right. So what he's basically saying is next turn you're dead unless you do something.
You're at 6.
Now,
Yeah.
Kibler, I believe, just has 2 lands in hand, but he is definitely going to... Oh, he's got something. He's got Decree
Wow.
of Pain.
Decree of Pain right here. He is going to wipe the board and draw
I was thinking
very,
exactly this
very,
card that I wanted to
very
draw.
many cards.
I don't
So
know
It's
exactly what
possible he
to do
could
with it.
cycle it. I guess cycling it kills
No
everything
up,
but
right?
the Master of the Wild Hunt. Both hard casting it and cycling are devastating here, right?
Now, Owen doesn't have any mana available. Is that correct?
That is correct. I mean, yeah, right. You don't want to hard cast it because he can just pay Mirror Entity for 0
Right.
and not draw any cards. So yeah, I think you have to cycle it here. But I mean, what a card for
Wow,
Kibler
that
to
is
have.
just a disgusting... I mean, is that the game?
Let's see. Yeah,
We'll pass
Owen's
Decree
at
of
6. Yeah, he can attack for 5 through a cycled Decree of Pain.
Why did he...
I don't understand hard casting it at all. I do not even remotely understand hard casting it. Because now he's going to lose his creatures. He's
Right.
not going to draw any cards.
Where if he cycled it, doesn't Owen just lose his board and he just attacks for
Yeah,
the
if,
win?
if he cycles it, Owen loses all of his creatures except for Master of the Wild Hunt. Kibler attacks for 5 out of the 6 points of Owen's life total. Cycling it,
0.
huge.
Okay.
Instead,
So I
Owen
draw
activates
3,
entity
this
for
guy.
0.
This guy still has a counter, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he still
So
gets to
3 guys die, I
draw
draw 3.
1 card from
All right.
Yeah, he
from
goes 0/0 with a plus
Phantom
one
Centaur
counter.
because it
So
has a
it's-
1/1 counter on it.
Okay.
I
And then he
guess.
also gets hit to draw cards from his
From
own.
his guys. So he rats the board and draws 3 cards, but I feel like
Go.
Wow, that was disgusting though. Either
it's
way.
still really good, but
Yeah.
why not keep your Frost Titan? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
Big
One of
Frosties.
those.
all right, so he plows
Sure.
both his lands. Owen's not going to be doing anything for a while. Kibler,
Wow, this is a huge swing back in Kibler's direction. Either way you cut this. And he's just going to get in there with a Strangleroot Geist. That's going to drop Owen to 4.
Go.
And an Oblivion
Owen
Ring
had
is
an
going to come
Oblivion
down.
Ring in his hand, but we know his next draw is still dead. Oh, Wickerbow Elder targeting Oblivion Ring, blowing
Target
it up,
Oblivion
attacks,
Ring
and that's going to be the
and
match.
attack you. Wow, what a huge swing Decree of Pain was there.
I don't know that I was seeing Decree of Pain coming from Kibler. I mean,
because
he's
if I
like
cycle
this
Decree of Pain, he
blue-green
still
deck
has
with
his
a fair amount
master,
of
and he's
creatures,
still
but I
getting
mean,
guys each turn.
if he
If
knew
has,
the
like,
game was going to
something,
go
then, like,
long,
and he deals with my Frost Titan,
obviously
he, like,
that card
has
can
Decree of Pain.
tear Owen up. Now,
If we went to the board
Kibler
and,
not
I mean,
even
I'm
main
drawing
decking
one
any
cards,
black
you know,
cards.
we're-
His
we're
mana
at
base
a
is
parity
10
situation where
forest,
I have a bunch of cards
6
and he has
island, so he sided in
just
both
one
of those swamps for the Decree of Pain. I mean, you've got to think, if anybody knows how to win a mid-range match, it is Brian Kibler.
Yeah.
Wow, that is insane. I did not see that coming at all. And I thought that, one interesting point that happened is, so he drew an island, and that allowed him to rampant growth for the other black source.
Right, and not have to
I gotta
ramp
say,
for
I was
island.
like, okay, sure, but what are we even doing this for? And then all of a sudden, he rips that Decree of Pain and things get a lot clearer. Hey, welcome back to the booth. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. This is Zach Hill. Woo!
Those are some. I mean, these
Haymaker
games.
City,
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, these guys are just smashing into it. It's insane, some of the swings that we saw, especially from the great players. You give these really nasty cards, Decree of Pain, these things to these guys, and man, they find some of the most crazy stuff to do with those.
Right.
That one, resolve it. Okay, fair.
Right,
But
sure.
that play that Owen had was really nasty with the primal commands, kill your thing, put your thing in there, that's gone,
By the way, your Knight of the Reliquary dies.
Yeah.
Truly amazing stuff we've been watching here today at the Players' Championship.
Yes, and to talk a little bit more about that, we're going to head back to the studio right about now.